Hi, my name is Aysia Gilbert, Aysia, and I am here with the Samuel Proctor Oral History Program at the National Mall in Washington, D.C. And I'm here with Miss, can you please state your name for the record?
Carla Sheffield.
And can you spell that for us?
C-A-R-L-A, Sheffield, S-H-E-F-F-I-E-L-D.
All right, and another colleague of mine is joining us for an interview. Could you please state your name and spell it for the record?
Sure, it's Tori Bedford, T-O-R-I-B-E-D-F-O-R-D.
All right. Okay, so could you tell us about your relative here?
My son, Burrell Anthony Ramsey White, was shot and killed on August 21, 2012 in Boston, Massachusetts, in what was supposed to be a routine traffic stop. At least that's what the police said. When I got the initial police report, it had 4 lines in it. One said that a call was made because somebody was peering in the car. The next line said that as the police were chasing my son, that the chase was called off, but they didn't stop. They continued to chase him. The third line said that the officer's department-issue firearm went off, trying to make it seem like it was accidental, but we all know that's not what it was. When they first pulled my son over, now first of all, my son had just got his license, so the only thing he wanted to do was drive somebody's car, anybody's car. He didn't care. He got his license. He asked me for my car, and I said no. I was at work, and he's like, "Mother of mine, what are you doing when you get off work?" I said, "No, I'm not." And he's like, "I'm coming to see you." When I got off work, I was waiting for him because he's a little later sometimes, so I got tired of waiting for him. As soon as I stepped through the threshold to go out my door, I got a call that said, "Ma, you need to come to the south end, something's wrong with Bo." All kinds of emotions came over me. I just jumped in my car and I started headed to Tent City. Now, I lived in Tent City for 10 years with my children. Before I got to Tent City, I received another call from the same person that says, "Ma, they took him to Boston Medical, go there." So when I get to Boston Medical, you can see a whole bunch of people standing outside, and you can tell they knew I was the mother coming for the kid they just brought in. They bring me into this glass room. The first thing the doctor does, first the officer comes in, he stands to the back of the room and says his name, Detective Sullivan, homicide, and I immediately think, oh, they're gonna investigate my son's stuff. No. The doctor comes down and she says to me, "Miss Sheffield, I'm so sorry. I didn't know until after I got the call." Immediately it clicked in my head, what call did you get? And had you got it earlier, would my son be alive? Then she said, I took over chest compressions, which blew me out the water because I know for a fact, the kids told me, they didn't give chest compressions, they didn't give CPR down there, so he was dead in Tent City. So for you to tell me that you took over chest compressions when he got to the hospital, you're fabricating a story.
Right.
So she walks out and everything just goes blank. I'm just numb as fuck, and I'm like, I can't believe this. Everybody's telling me, you need to come down Tent City, you need to talk to people. I wasn't in that frame of mind.
Right.
I went home and I just cried and cried and cried. Went and got the other police report that had so much more. It had a paragraph like this. So for 3 months, I could not get the officer's name. No one came to say, "Miss Sheffield, we're sorry for your loss. This is what happened." No one came to inform me that police even killed my kid. I found out from people on the street. So when I go get the police report, see, what they wasn't counting on was I worked at the State House for 11 years, so I know the laws. I work in the court now, and this December will be 25 years I work for the government.
Wow.
They didn't know that, so I'm not allowing them to sweep this under the rug.
Yeah.
The police investigated themselves and cleared themselves. They went and got some gentleman from the mosque who was a community leader and made it seem like they had this gentleman sign off that it was okay that they got away with killing my son. My thing was, I don't care what community leader you call.
It's not me.
You don't know me.
Yeah.
You can't stand up there and speak for me nor my child, so how fucking dare you?
Right.
How dare you? Then they put out a 1,000-page report that says this is what they did, their process of how they came to the decision to clear themselves. That's a piece of trash to me.
Of course.
Investigate it yourself.
Of course you're going to be innocent.
Right. So I said, I'm taking y'all to court. Everybody was like, you're not getting them in court, you're not getting them in court, and I did. My boyfriend called around first of all, when my son died, when my son was murdered, I had called my church, Morning Star, yes, I'm putting you on blast, Reverend Borders, to have my son's services. At the same time, 4 women were killed in the car in Dorchester. So I felt like when they gave me the church and then took it for me, that's the excuse they used. It was for one of them. But you had already given it to me. What, does my child not matter now?
Yeah.
How dare you? So they took the church back from me. They told me to have my service in a 2-day session. I was like, I'm not doing that. Why should I have to endure any more pain than I'm already doing?
Right.
I'm not doing that. So my niece started in Mattapan and knocked on every church door until we got to Roxbury, till we found a church that would allow me to bury my child.
Wow.
Every time they heard the word police, doors were shutting.
Wow.
Shutting. Now, the churches are supposed to be there for any and everybody.
Exactly.
Morning Star was not. Even after the situation, like 2 years later, as they're giving gifts to children of lost loved ones, they come upon my daughter, whose last name is Sheffield. One of the members in the church's grandson was killed by somebody named Sheffield, and they assumed it was my son, so they treated my daughter like shit. These kids were supposed to get laptops to go back to school and to help them write their journaling. My daughter got a stuffed animal. She was 13 years old. They gave the computer to a cousin of mine who didn't lose anybody by police but lost somebody through cancer.
Wow.
And they were treating my daughter like shit the whole time we were going to this church. So I told my mother, I said, that's your church, you can go. I'm not going there. I'm done with Reverend Borders, the whole church. We finally found the church, which is St. John's Missionary Baptist Church in Roxbury, that allowed me to have my son's services there. I have not been to church since. It will be, actually last Saturday was 9 years since my son's murder and 9 years since I've been in a church. I have gone into a church to do like prayers for our loved ones, but to sit and have a full service, I didn't do that till 2 weeks ago because it was St. John's Missionary. And I remember they cared about me, so I cared about them, you know what I mean? And then when I went, they did a special service that was just geared towards mothers who had lost their children at the hands of police. So it gave me not a better perspective of church, but a better perspective of that church.
Yeah.
And it was lively, and it was like, this is going to help heal my heart.
Yeah.
So when I do go back to church, which is still going to take some time, that will be the church. Once I got them in court, all kinds of stuff went. So I think the whole jury pool needs to be reassessed, because I was brought into this room with all the people who were being picked for jury. And the judge asked if anybody in the room was related to police. Everybody's hand, and 75% of the people's hands went up. Are you related, married to, got kids by, any of that? If you are related,
them.
And they put their hands up. They asked if the person was from a low-income family, would you be biased? 50% put their hands up. The woman and a white gentleman was sitting in front of me. I guess they thought I was a juror too. I could just like I'm sitting here and she's sitting there, they were saying, every time the judge asks questions, let's put our hands up so he can disqualify us. Every question their hand went up. So when the judge calls both of them up, the white dude got sent home. She became juror number 12. Juror number 4 slept through 3 of the days. She fell asleep on day 3, day 4, and day 7. Day 6, because they took day 7 away. Juror number 7 cried like she was forced to go with the majority. Because when they came out and ruled in favor of the officers, she immediately started crying. The whole process of the court was ridiculous. Every time my attorney got up to talk, the judge would rush him along. Overruled, you can't use this, you can't use this, you can't use this. But that same evidence the police were allowed to use. They got to speak as long as they want to. What got me was the police brought in first of all, when we walked in the courtroom was filled with police officers in dress blues. What is this, an intimidation factor? Well, I'm not scared. I'm not scared. I'm here, front and center. And I got your ass in here that you said I wasn't going to do. But look where we're at. So as we're in the court and they're all in dress blues and I have my support team here, The police had 2 expert witnesses, one that they paid, and we called him out because even though he's paid by them, he just says what they want them to say. My attorney put him on the spot and asked him, has he ever gone against the police? No. Are your reports now being questioned? And everything was. So his expert witness is no longer credible, but yet they put him up there.
Of course.
Then they had a medical. See, they thought they got away because Commissioner Ed Davis, took the videotape from Tent City. A gentleman called me and said, you need to come get this tape. Commissioner Davis is trying to take it. By the time we got down there, the tape was gone. They had Tent City write a letter saying that the camera didn't work. I lived there for 10 years and y'all kept, every time our children were together in a group of 3, you labeled them as gangs. So we know you were down there protecting the higher up people who lived there. So those cameras, as soon as they went out, you had them fixed. So I want to get them too, just for lying, for false evidence, entering that into the realm of things. So they thought because the video was taped, they got away scot-free. After my boyfriend called around, we found an attorney who he didn't want to be my attorney, but he said, I will file this case per se for you so you don't lose your time. I did have an attorney, but she, after I find this out, after a amount of time, not only worked in the DA's office, but I felt like she was stalling me.
Because she was helping them.
Right.
Right.
I said in the beginning, like my son had an open case. My son has been to jail. He's done his time. He had an open case. I found out, I got this attorney through my son's attorney. He's like, she's Francis King, she's nice, she'll help you, she'll do this, that, and the third. No, she came from the DA's office. Her whole fucking strategy was to delay me. Every time I turned her, first I said, if this is gonna cost money, I don't want you. I don't need you.
Right.
Oh no, this not, we're good. No, Carla. So she files all this stuff and then I'm like, okay, we need to go in and see the evidence. She kept making up excuses. Oh, it's the holiday. Oh, I broke my arm. Oh, I'm on vacation. Oh, I'm sick. And I said, you know what? I'm sick too. You're no longer my attorney.
Yeah.
This is a year later, a year and a half later. Then she sends me a letter. Oh, she asked me for money for an investigator. I said, no, I'm not giving you shit.
Didn't I tell you?
Because I just told you I don't have money. So I said, you know what? I don't even want you on my case. So when I took her off the case, she sent me a letter that says, you have until August 15 to file a case or you will lose all rights. And this is when my boyfriend starts calling, looking for an attorney. And then he finds one who files pro se for me. So once I get them in court and the ball is rolling, they could no longer say, I'm not getting them in court.
Right.
But they thought they got away scot-free because they took the tape. My attorney hired an investigator who found a gentleman. At the time the officer shot my son, he was walking up the walkway. The gun goes off, he drops his bag and he breaks. In that same video up in the right-hand corner, you can see my son with his hands up. You can see the gun. We don't have sound, but you can see a little spark.
Yeah.
My son's head drops and then his body goes down.
So they shot him in the head?
No, they shot him. They shot him and my son must have turned because the bullet was here. Now, when they first happened, the police officer said that my son pulled out a gun and fired at him. He returned fire, shooting him in the chest. Then when to let them know, my son didn't have a bullet hole in his chest, the story changed to my son got a drop on him, had the gun, and put the gun to the officer's head. So when it came out that there was no residue on my son's hand from firing a gun, and that my son's fingerprint was not on the gun, they came up with another fucking story. That, I forgot what the story was, but they came up with another story. And then they had, when we finally go in to see the evidence, they don't really have evidence. They have a PowerPoint presentation that they put together, a cardboard map that they drew the direction that my son went, did not have the gun in there, did not have any of the other shit. They brought a 8x11 piece of paper in it, and on it was a little box. No date, no name, no heading from where this paper came from. And they said it was the shot shooter that's around the area that detects how many times a gun goes off. They try to say that this picked up 2 guns going off. Every witness that they talked to that was on my son's case said 1 gun. They found 1 person, and I think they used this person's background to get them to say it was 2 fires, to get them to say whatever they needed them to say.
Yeah.
Then they bring in a picture of the dumpster that's empty, and the only thing in the fucking dump is the gun and a fan. Are you kidding me? The weekend just passed. Your dump truck has not come to collect the trash. How is this the only thing in the trash? This dumpster is empty, but the other dumpsters are full. And this gun is conveniently laying there. A couple of the people who witnessed it, because one was doing drugs, they felt like his testimony wasn't worthy. But his mother said she packed up and left because she felt like the police were trying to make her change her story. She said they put handcuffs on my son and they were trying to get her to say that they didn't do that, and was knocking on her door, and she packed her shit and left. She left. She was like, I'm not changing my story. This young man helped me all the time, and I'm going to be there for him.
Exactly.
They create their own stories. They put out a narrative, and you're supposed to go with this narrative, and it's just not the case.
Yeah.
I am going to continue to fight until I get justice for my son. The sad thing is that they had a warrant. They knew who they were looking for, and they couldn't be bothered to do their job. They hide behind qualified immunity, and I feel like if we start making them pay out their pocket, they'll stop killing our fucking sons.
No, for real.
Point blank.
Yeah. What was the officer's name?
See, I can't say their name. This is part of the court decision. If I say their name that they murdered my son, they can turn around and sue me.
You for defamation of character.
And take my house. Ain't that some shit? Anybody else can say their name, but I can't say their name. Black guy and a white guy. And the fact that they knew who they were looking for. My son shouldn't be dead. My son should not be dead from a routine traffic stop. I should not be sitting here looking into a camera telling the world that Boston police killed my goddamn son 10 days after he turned 26. For what? For what? I still don't have any answers. They ruled against me that the officers were cleared, but I am in the process of appealing. I haven't appealed yet because I don't have the funds, but what I am doing is I'm taking every piece of information I could get. I'm going to use the Freedom of Information Act to get my son's case, and I'm publishing it. I'm naming names. I'm putting the whole story up. I'm going to narrate my son's story truthfully and put it aside next to the police story and let the world be the judge.
Yeah. So once you do appeal everything, do you plan on suing the police officers again? Or?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
And what would be your hopes for that case?
I hope that I would get the justice that I deserve. My thing is, Boston has not admitted that they did anything wrong. So you can't fix what you don't admit. And this is why we're where we're at.
Exactly.
Marty Walsh held a conference when the Ferguson thing happened and sat there and said, we're incident away from, she's trying to get your attention.
Oh, sorry.
We're incident away from being like Ferguson. Was like a punch in the gut to me because I'm sitting in this audience. Then we had a new commissioner, Commissioner Gross, and he's like, oh, I did a performance. We start with just doing this and tapping our legs, and it was all mothers and police officers and youth, and we got together, and it was called, the name will come back to me, but it was mothers, youth, and police officers, and we start with just the sound, then we put words to it, and then we put a whole little thing together about killing our sons, about evidence, about just our sons and the nature of their deaths. And somebody picked us up and brought us out here, and we performed at the JFK Performance Center. Then I got to go hold at the juvenile jail. I got to go hold a circle with these young kids, and it was amazing and it was impactful. And just doing that is what allows me to keep going. But when I see stuff on the TV, like another kid shot by police, it just brings me right back to the beginning. And I have to go through all these tools that I use. This Legacy Lives On, which is a group of mothers whose kids have been killed by people on the street. I am the only one, well, until these ladies, who was in that group whose kids was killed by police officers. So some of the things they were saying, I couldn't, like, oh, my victim advocate did this for me and did this. And I'm like, I didn't get a victim advocate. I didn't get that. They put our children's name on a rock and put it down in this fountain and told first that you are allowed to get victim assistance. So my first letter was, after my son was killed and the Peace Institute helped me fill out the paperwork, they said, your application has been denied because your son was involved. Like they were saying, my son was culpable for his death. So I wrote them back and I said, I don't know where you got your information from, but my son was killed in a routine traffic stop. So then they sent me a new letter, approval letter with a number on it, stating that this was my victim advocate number. Once the police finished investigating themselves, they denied me again. So I never got any funds. I had to go to headquarters, hold out a bucket, and have people drop money in it so I could bury my kid. My son died August 21st, 2012. I didn't bury him until 10 days later. I didn't have a church, I didn't have money, I had no victim advocate, I had none of that.
They gave you no resources.
On my own. But I got it done, motherfuckers, I got it done. So I want them to be held accountable. I want him in jail.
Yeah.
Period.
Yeah.
Go to jail. You keep
Just
sending
like
our
you said,
black and brown
yeah,
kids
just like
to
you
jail.
sent us to
Go the fuck to jail. The evidence says, if you do your job and follow the evidence, if you weren't a police officer, you would be in jail right now. Mm-hmm. Go to jail. That's where you need to be. Not playing with your children, because I can't play with mine. He didn't have any kids. He didn't have a wife. He didn't get to do a lot of things he wanted to do because of you. But you get to go home and push your kid in a swing. I don't get to do that. You need to be held accountable. All police departments need to be refunded. Not defunded, but reformed. Done over from scratch, because you all have this mentality that you all are above the law, and you're not. You're not above us. We actually put y'all there. Our taxes pay for you to be there. So if you're going to continue to kill our kids, give me my goddamn taxes back. For the raggedy streets, for the education, the lack of education our black and brown kids are given. This is all a circle, spirograph circle. One thing's connected by the other. The homelessness, the food shortage, but you all are living high off the hog. How are you all millionaires being Congress people? You should not be millionaires. You should not be billionaires. You should be struggling like we're struggling. Live in our shoes. Y'all do not deserve those seats. You all do not deserve your badges. You all need to be held accountable. It needs to be more transparency. And you need to pay out your pocket and you stop killing our damn kids.
Yes. Do you have any?
I digress.
Carla, you mentioned what former Mayor Walsh, who is now the Labor Secretary,
So disappointing.
his comment about Ferguson. There's a lot of that sort of mentality that these things don't happen in Boston or in Massachusetts. I mean, statistically we have a low percentage of them compared to other states, and there is a perception that it's uncommon, or, I mean, you can look at this group of women who are waiting to
it's
be
not
interviewed.
uncommon, right?
Right, but what is your response to that?
I feel like I said, they haven't admitted. You can't fix something that you don't admit's broken. And they have yet to do that. And I feel like Marty Walsh, you know, the whole thing with Marty Walsh, he does slick shit and everybody else is held accountable. Just like the mayor that he put in place when he went to D.C. Oh, I didn't know. You're a goddamn mayor. How did you not know? This is what you're used to doing. You're used to putting, how do I say it? Uncompromising people in positions that they shouldn't be in. And you're used to using people to get what you want, and then you act like don't shit happen on your watch. The fact that you're up here in Washington, the fact that you're up here, I am livid. I'm livid. You should not be here. You're here because of your name and not of your job.
But he didn't make Boston racist.
He didn't make Boston racist, but he didn't help stop it either. He adds to it by the permits he give out. Everybody, black people got to fight to get permits. Like, I just did an event for my son. I've never had to pay for a permit because it's a nonprofit. I had to fight tooth and nail for 6 permits and end up paying out my pocket to do a family event where I'm giving back to the community. That shouldn't have happened. Every little thing should not be a fight. I shouldn't have to fight for a piece of paper that my tax dollars pay for. When I went to get the police report for my son, they wanted to charge me $5. I said, I wish the fuck you would. I said, this happened not even 24 hours ago. If you don't look through that computer and give me what I need, we're going to have a problem. And they found it like that. They get away with stuff because we are not boisterous. We accept what they give us. It's time to stop accepting that and hold them accountable. Stop naming names. See, we go out and we say, well, Boston police killed my child. No, so-and-so killed my child. Marty Walsh is a part of the police. He's not reprimanding them. The supervisors is where we need to begin, because you keep putting this person who got 12 marks against him back on the street. So you're saying, go and kill him. Right now, they have, I saw on the news that they're asking folks to come be a police officers, and one of the benefits is qualified immunity. How the fuck do you advertise that? Come be a police officer, you get to kill our kids. Like, how's that possible? Oh, we really shouldn't be talking about this, but this is one of the benefits you get becoming a police officer. Like, come on. This is why nothing's being done in Boston, because, first of all, you have a lot of mothers who don't know where to turn or where to go to speak to anybody about killing their children. You have all kinds of places for street-on-street crime, but you don't have a place for mothers or fathers whose kids were killed by police to go. I'm getting ready to create that.
Exactly.
I'm getting ready to create that.
So would you say that your healing comes from being a community advocate?
Yes.
From the spaces?
Yes. Yes. Like, I use Legacy Live On to repeatedly tell my story. I use the Peace Institute that gives you all kinds of tools to use, and that's what helped me get where I'm at. Like, before I couldn't speak about my son without crying. I was not this voiceful. Now I don't give a shit who's there, what I got to say. You're going to hear what I got to say.
Yes,
and I'm going to make sure his story flows when I get back to Boston.
Yes, ma'am.
They're going to hear my son's story. They might not like what comes out of it, but I'm hoping to receive justice.
Yeah. Do you have any more questions that you'd like to ask? Jamie, do you have any more questions? All right, just give us one moment.
My son deserves justice.
Yeah.
All our kids out here.
Where could we keep up with your work and follow sort of the things that you're doing?
I started a nonprofit called Better Opportunities, and actually, this is my shirt.
Yeah.
Better Opportunities.
Yes.
And on the back.
Stop. That's nice.
So I did a basketball tournament for my son. This is my son, Burrell. This is my son, Burrell. This is my nephew, John. John was killed by somebody off the street. So what I did was I put a basketball tournament together this past 21st. On 3 of the teams, it said Stop Police Brutality. On the back of the other 3 teams, it said Stop Gang Violence. And we gave out trophies, we gave out book bags, we had sack race, we did a whole family day. And it was amazing. We gave out 75 book bags, high school, middle school, and elementary kids. This, even though I did this every year, I add a new element, and the book bags was the new element. Next year will be 10 years, so we're gonna make sure we go all out. But if you go to Live for Bo, LIVE, the number 4, LIVE, the number 4, BO.org, we have a whole website up. My thing with starting my son's nonprofit is, hopefully by next year, I want to give away 3 $1,000 scholarships, one for cooking, one for music, and one to become a police officer, because those are the things that he enjoyed doing.
Wow.
So that's my ultimate goal. For low-income families, they're going to have to write an essay, and the best out of the 1, 2, 3 will be picked, and so I got to keep fundraising and doing stuff until next year.
Wow,
but we're getting there.
Yeah, and I just want to say thank you. Although I might not be a part of your community, I'm so thankful for women and Black women like you that really go into the community and stick up for kids, because it's really impactful.
Thank you. And I am grateful for you guys, because if it wasn't for you all, our story wouldn't even be out there.
Yeah.
So thank you.
Of course, yes.
And you know, my heart's with you. You followed us from Boston up here, so we love you.
Is there anything else that you'd like to add about your son before we wrap everything up?
My son, Burrell Anthony Ramsey White, was 26 years old. When he was murdered, my 8-year-old daughter, who is now 17, he treated her like she was his kid. He would come in the house with a sack, gifts for all the babies. She, I thought, was going to be withdrawn and not want to do anything. My daughter has excelled. She is now a community activist. She's performed with me doing Cold Listen is what the group was called. And we performed. Even through COVID, losing her brother, then one of my other sons had 4 years after somebody hit the back of his car and pushed him in traffic, and he T-boned his car. So he is paralyzed from the neck down. And my other young son is so angry. So she feels like her 3 brothers are no longer capable to be there for her. Yeah. And I thought that would make her withdrawn, but my baby became a national high school scholar for Lexington High School, and also got a book award. So, Bo, we are out here fighting for you, baby, and Zaria is doing just fine. Just keep guiding her and directing her, and we'll meet you at the promised land. I love you, and we're not going to stop until we get justice. I love you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, ladies.
Yeah, of course.
Have you met with the DA yet? Has she reached out to meet with you?
She sent me a letter asking to meet with me around Christmas. I responded to that letter. I went on Facebook to respond to that letter, and I have yet to have a meeting with her. What angers me about her is that she and I both stood on a platform together down at Copley and spoke, and she's like, we're going to get together. We're going to talk about your case, and that hasn't happened. And then for her to send me a letter and then don't follow through, but yet I see you on Zoom doing everything else, doing community stuff that doesn't, I shouldn't say it doesn't matter, but it's not pertinent to losing someone's life. You can do that and hold meetings, and you can meet with me. So I'm a little pissed off that she sent a letter and didn't follow up. And I have 3 times. So, yeah.
Before we wrap up, can we see this photo of your son?
This is my baby, Burrell Ramsey White. Shot and killed in a routine traffic stop. And my question was, if this was a routine traffic stop, how come he's the only one that went through it? Where's the paperwork that allowed y'all to set it up? And did anybody else get caught in this traffic stop? I need answers.
Thank you.
Thank you.